You have to give me that call.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December meeting of the Oakland Board of Ed. Will you please rise for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With the indicating there's not going to be, thank you. As part of the board? Yeah. All right, very good. Okay. Not a problem. So we're going to start with our elementary principal report, Ms. King.
Okay. You'll notice in our hallway we're highlighting children who have been showing selfless behavior or selfless acts. So please take a note on our PBIS bulletin board. I've been working with Jane Hernandez, our social studies curriculum coordinator for BOCES, and she has been meeting with every grade level, every teacher at Mackenzie that teaches social studies, and visiting classrooms. And that's been going over very nicely, and I thank Jane for her hard work and dedication to our school. December 5th through the 9th, we had Hour of Code with technology classes, so children would be exposed to code, the programming, and that went over very well. Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Nealon were very instrumental in making that happen. December 7th, we had our Mackenzie holiday concert, which was great. The kids had a wonderful time. We have had our second EPIC training thus far. And December 8th and 9th were our parent conferences. We had, I think, just about 100% attendance for our parent conferences, and if parents could not make it on the 8th or the 9th, they came either a couple of days later or a couple of days before. We tried to accommodated everybody that wanted to be here. That was very well attended. On the 13th, we had the PTA assembly, which is superheroes. If you walk through the halls, you'll see 4 posters of different heroes. Superman, now I'm trying to think of the more. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, and who was the last one?
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown, right.
He's a superhero.
So you'll notice that they are displayed throughout the halls, and I think the kids really enjoyed the assembly. And then on the 14th and today was the PTA Holiday Fair, and that is a huge undertaking because you're really just guessing as to how much to purchase. And all of the kids came in and bought lots of gifts for their families. On Monday, I have Trooper Better coming. His first name is Craig, and he's coming to address the 5th and the 6th graders. And the topic is really just making good choices and how choices can affect your life, and a little presentation from him. On January 11th, we will look forward to another PTA assembly called Mad Science. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't report to you about it. And we also are taking the lead from Mr. Krebs. We're trying to go a little bit more green and trying to be a little bit more transparent for parents. So we're starting the 3rd quarter to open up the parent portal so parents can keep track of what their kids are doing and how they're doing and how they can be of assistance. We're not going to actually roll that out 100%. We will have parent portal rolled out, but we'll still have paper until the end of the year. And then by September, we'll go completely green as far as report cards are concerned. And any parent who can't access a computer, no worries, we will send you a hard copy of whatever you need. But I think it's going pretty well for the high school, so we'd like to take that lead and be a little bit more green. And that is my report.
Any questions, Virginia? Okay. And our secondary principal report, Mr. Krebs.
Okay, first up, Mr. Gass did not really prepare too much because he's at a sports game this evening. The girls are playing basketball as we speak. And other than that, he said sports are going well this year. Accolades will be forthcoming. So I heard that from him. I have Ella and Julia here, and they have a report from the student body. And if they leave out anything that I have, I'll include it in mine also.
Okay, so prom committee started today. We had our first meeting talking about the junior prom in 2017. Next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're gonna do a short little winter festivity week at the high school. We're doing Santa versus Elves Day, Red, White, and Green Day, and we're gonna do Ugly Sweater Day. And also, 8th and 9th period, we are doing several activities for the students and the 7th and 8th graders. They get to have their movie session.
Movie festival.
Movie festival.
Yeah.
As student council, we are trying to get together a senior ball for the senior citizens of the community, to bring them in. Hopefully, if we have access to the gym, we can show off our new gym floor in the high school. Yeah. The winter concert last night went very well. There's a lot of talent in the room. The Junior National Honor Society was doing a clothes drive for the past 2 weeks, I'm gonna say. It closes on the 23rd, so next week. Yeah, which because Ms. Sutherland runs it, it's been pretty successful. She has a good pile of bags of clothes in her room. And National Honor Society is planning on doing candygrams next week, so just selling candy canes to like kind of like give out, like send a candy cane to someone. And that's our report.
Thank you.
I'll just add a little bit to that, to be in the festive holiday season. Behind you, you have a scrolling of the teachers in the building, pretty much decorated all of their doors with a holiday theme. So that's been scrolling through to kind of give our school a little bit of sprucing up. We also have, Mrs. Kilmer has been, we did a club this year called the Decorating Club. And this is we did opening day, we did Thanksgiving, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and now this is the holiday time. And we'll continue that throughout the year. It's been pretty good about kind of putting some color in our school this year. The chorus has attended the senior luncheon, which they participated in with the Key Elements group, and they're also going tomorrow. The high school chorus, some select groups, and I believe Key Elements are going to the Sullivan County Government Center at noon to perform for people at the Government Center in Monticello. So if you have a chance to go down there, you'll see our groups there. Next Tuesday, the 20th, we will be having our first ever National Art Honor Society induction ceremony. We're inducting a number of new members this year, so this is our first time with the induction. That'll take place at 5 o'clock at the junior senior high school. And to go along with the green...
It's not 5 or 6?
5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock?
Yes.
It says 640.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wanted to just make sure it's 5. And also, the last thing is that to kind of go around along with the theme, we've been looking at updating our website. It's a little cumbersome to go through. We've also updated, as you know, you all get the school, well, almost all of you. I don't know if Doug gets it, but, or Carol, or Linda. I get it. Brian gets it. The school messenger, we have delays and closings. But if you participate in our Facebook page, you will get a notification. We're looking at a mobile app for our district. So there's a couple companies out there that have mobile apps. Those are the ones that you download to your smartphone, and it'll have app, Elgin Junior Senior High School or Elgin Central School District or whatever, and you'll be able to get information pushed out to you. So we've started the process now of looking at some companies. I believe it depends on the company, but there's a fee that goes along with it, either by kid or just for the setup fee for what it might be. And I'm hoping by our next meeting, we'll come back to you with some options that we've looked at and some of the pricing. I know Doug has one at Minisink. I don't know if you were involved in. Okay, so you kind of know the direction that we're heading with a mobile app. And I think
Very
it's-
important.
Yeah.
Very.
I think it's another way to get people engaged in what we're doing here at school, and they'll be able to push out notifications, and they can have a very easy thing of accessing our information. So that's our mobile app. Did I cover everything on that? Okay. And that's it for the junior senior high school.
Can I go again, because I forgot a couple of
Okay.
things. Very quickly. I just wanted to mention that our pre-K students worked with the 5th grade students in helping them write letters to Santa. That's very important when you're in the elementary school. I happened to stop in at Ron Dunker's class about a week ago, and he was having an ice cream social for positive reinforcement. So that was fun. I got to scoop out ice cream and give out sprinkles, and again, these are really important things that happen in Mackenzie.
And you just happened to go by his classroom as
Right at the
this
right
was
time, I said. And on the 23rd, next week, we did reach out to Santa. I'm not sure if he'll be able to come with his sleigh and whatnot for a Santa visit. So he'll hopefully be able to come next week, or next Friday. We'll have a movie. Parents are invited pre-K through 2 in the gymnasium. We hope that parents can come, and teachers will have parties in their classroom. And then yesterday, and I'm so disappointed at Mrs. Hazen because I did not know, and it was a great opportunity. What did you do yesterday in the cafeteria? But you made,
Gingerbread houses.
yes,
Fabulous.
okay.
They're still in there. We're going to distribute them to local businesses and show them off a bit. The 6th grade and the 1st grade, quite an experience.
So there are a lot of great things happening here, and our kids are wonderful. I promise not to go again.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, this is just my personal opinion, but, you know, when you hear about things like ice cream socials and gingerbread house making and, you know, the 5th graders working with the pre-Ks on letters to Santa, that stuff's really cool because I understand all the pressures that take you away from things like that, and they won't slow down. But I love to hear that the school's kind of carving out ways to keep kids engaged and having fun throughout the year, not just at Christmas time, but throughout the
And
year.
working with the 5th and the 1st, and you just said,
Yeah, that's really
that is
very
cool.
cool.
And I did take lots of pictures, except for the gingerbread house activity. I think it was a meeting.
You
I was.
You were, and Miss Palanis was all over her picture, so we're
Yes,
good.
okay. So we will have new pictures up to display, so please take a look when you come.
Seems Miss Kagan has a nose for ice cream, but not gingerbread.
She knows we assemble,
Really edible?
she knows we assemble them with hot glue.
So I wouldn't go in there and snack if I were. The kids know this. Good is it?
Well, a lot of kids touch it.
Make sure you tell those businesses it's not edible.
Yep, we do.
Good.
For display purposes only.
Any other questions? Yes.
Maybe, the Santa letters that the 1st graders and 5th graders wrote together, that was part of the Interact Club at our high school that we wanted to send. We sent over, I think, 2 mailboxes for the kids to write letters to, and we got the letters back, and we're starting to write back as elves, because we're gonna be Santa's elves right back.
Pretty cool.
That's great.
Thank you.
Very
I
nice.
just a quick comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
For the notifications for delays and closings, what a lot of schools do is they have an email chain that they put up online. You can just put in your email address and then it just sends you an instant email if things get closed or delayed or whatever. So that definitely, would be a cool option to do if that's possible.
I don't know about that, but if anybody has, can log on to our Facebook, I try to push them out that way also.
Yeah, no, I've seen that on there too, which is good.
Okay, and we're gonna go to our school business report from Ms. Lewis.
I think you all received a copy of my printed report. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I'm just gonna hit some highlights. The lead testing is completed. We still have 2 outlets that we have posted signs at that have now passed the 2nd round. And we're perplexed as to why that is because we changed out the faucets. So we are going to retest and send to a different lab and see what happens. But we have posted signs that it is for hand washing and not for drinking. And they are in bathrooms, so no one should be drinking water. I was reviewing the debt service that the district has because I think we should start to look at a long-range plan for that. And I just wanted you to know that in 1920, we have 2 of our debts that are going off. There will no longer be, will be paid in full. 23-24 is another one that will be paid, and 24-25. So within the next 10 years, we will have no debt
I'm hoping you're
unless.
2020, right?
You said 19.
You just said 19.
Yeah, I wrote that.
19 to 20.
2019,
Oh,
2020.
Oh, I thought you meant 19, so I'm like,
I thought so.
2019, 2020.
That's why we asked the
Yeah.
question.
And then 2023 and 2024 and 2024 and 2025. So within 10 years, all of our debt will be paid unless we decide to do some capital improvement or some transportation options, which we're going to review in a little bit. The vending machines are doing fantastic. I'm happy to report that in November, we received $2,000 from vending machines alone. So that is really going to reduce an hour of our cafeteria budget. We have collected, well, our tax collection period is over, and we collected 93% of real property taxes, and 7% was sent out to Sullivan County and Orange County respectively to finish collecting on that. So we did very well on the tax collection. I have been preparing a list of building projects for the winter break. We're going to be touching up the paint in this building and doing some other things. There's only 2 days, but they are going to be busy working on the buildings. So I'm going to do 2 presentations, and I've given you some documentation so you can follow along. The first one is the reserve funds. And it's a 3-page paper clip. And on the top, this is just for your information, it's the different types of reserve funds that are, can be created by school districts, and it references the legal citation, tells you why you would create it, what the duration would be, the restrictions, and all of that. So that's really just for your own information for future reference. The important ones are the legal size that talks about our particular reserve funds and what the amount is that is in there. So we have 6 reserve funds currently with a total of $1,325,228 in them. Over the last, you see the spreadsheet, over the last 7 years, how they have been spent. The beginning 10 and 11, and 12, the district was putting money into the reserve funds and building them up. And then starting in 13, they started using them. The one thing I do want you to understand is the first line says balance at the end of the year. That's the balance in the reserve fund at that point in time, at the end of the fiscal year. The second line is projected amount needed to balance the budget. That was what was projected during budget development to close the gap. The last line is what was actually used. So while we have been budgeting and projecting the use of reserve funds, we have not been using them to the degree that we thought we would need to. So that's a good thing. But we also need to be conservative because we don't have a lot of reserves. So we have to continue to really monitor our spending and look at ways to increase our revenues. Does anybody have a question?
Ruth, I have a question. So if you look at 2015, I'm looking at your last page on the spreadsheet where you're talking about the projected amount that we would need to take from reserves to balance our budget versus what we actually ended up using. And in most years, we used significantly less than what the projection was. So in 2015, for example, we projected that we would need $535,000. We ended up using $460,000.
Well, the reason that we did that was because there was a tax certiorari reserve fund that is only allowed to be in existence for 4 years. If there is nothing in the court system that says that that money must remain because it hasn't been settled yet. So at that point in time, that tax certiorari fund had to be depleted.
Okay.
And that's why it was put into the
Gotcha.
general fund.
Okay. So that you probably answered the question, which is in 2016, we projected $600,000 to balance the budget and ended up only using $125,000 of that to balance the budget.
Correct. And the reason that we did that was because our workers' compensation fund, the comptroller's opinion is that it's high, it's overfunded.
Okay.
So we decided to pay our workers' compensation expenses out of the workers' compensation fund that year, and it was done by board resolution.
So is it accurate to say that we're actually pulling money from reserve funds for purposes other than balancing the budget? In other words, to balance off the reserve funds or to, use money that has to be used?
Yes.
Because
it
the
is
reason I
fair to
ask
say that.
is in 2017, we're projecting that we need $500,000. I understand it's a projection, we probably can't get more in-depth than that, but is that because we believe that we need $500,000 to balance the budget?
That is what I needed to balance the budget when I developed the budget, yes. Because a budget is a guesstimate of what your expenditures are going to be, and you cannot submit a budget that is not balanced.
Is any of that $500,000 projection based on the fact that we need to move money out of a reserve fund for some structural
Not
reasons?
this year.
Not
No,
this year.
it's not, okay.
And the numbers fluctuate too by how well we control spending during the school year. So if we project we need $500,000 to close the budget gap, a lot of that is under our control as to how well we can control our projected expenses during that budget cycle.
Okay.
So if we don't do a good job, we'll use the $500,000. If we do a good job, we'll use a lot less, if any, if we can do that. But the reason I asked Ruth to prepare this was, we've been talking about reserve funds since the tax levy limit went into effect, and I wanted her to show what it actually looks like over the last several years.
And sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that cause us to need, things that are out of our control, cause us to need to use reserve funds to balance the budget.
If you go back to 2014, okay, between 14 and 15, we did some extensive work here. There was a loophole in state law, the EVLAR, which is the Employee Accrued Liability Reserve, is a fund that is non-touchable. But there was a piece of legislation that was hidden in a previous budget bill that allowed school districts to touch that for, I think, 24 months. We almost missed the window. But we found it in April, and we immediately accessed the money with the assistance of our accountants. And by being able to access that, we're able to do some of the work we needed to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And next month, I should have an update about where we stand as far as budget figures, because it is like, it's the half year mark will be over, and you should be able to tell where we're going, which direction.
So I'm just one last question. So the first page that you gave us, the regular letter size page, front and back, are all of the available reserve funds that are available by statute. The legal side pages are the reserve funds that we actually have in place right now.
Correct.
As a district. Okay, thank you.
So the next report, which is, not.
You want to take the question?
Oh, yes, I can take
Yeah, well,
sure.
we're still on there. Also, isn't it true that in 2016, a lot of the savings were due to weather-related items, such as fuel oil that we didn't need to heat our buildings, and also the price of fuel,
Yes, I would agree with you on that.
so that may not be reoccurring. Doesn't feel like.
No, because
reoccurring,
it is projected to go up again, and this winter is supposed to be worse. So you are correct on that. And those are the items that we do not have control over, so. Anybody else?
For the public's view, many people don't know finance, but there's a reserve in your car. It's the reserve for your radiator tank. When your radiator tank runs low, it pulls from the reserve, and when it's boiling over, it puts back into the reserve. And it's actually very good financing to have these reserves, because it keeps things stable. We don't have to go and lay off 6 teachers at one time, or sell free buses or anything like that. So it's very good for stability, and you probably do it in your personal life. You have a savings account to take care of the unexpected things. So it's good budgeting.
And that's a perfect segue to the next presentation. We're going to talk about transportation. We are at a point in this district where we have to make a decision what we're going to do with our police. If you look, I gave you the slides, and on the second slide on the first page, if you look at that, you'll see we have a total of 15 large buses in this district. We need We'll get to what we need. We have a total of 15 right now. In February, one bus is out. DOT is not going to pass it. In July of 17, we have the potential for 6 more buses going out and not passing DOT. That is 7 buses. We will be down. It will take us down to 8 large buses. It will only leave us, let me see, no, because we already have one that went out already. Oh, that's why, we have one, you'll see towards the bottom that's highlighted, 96, 2000, number 96. It's in very good condition, is out of service. It needs engine repairs to the tune of $10,000, and it would cost us $1,000 to tow it to the shop. It is not worth putting that kind of money in. So there's another bus that's out. We have a mini bus that is continually breaking down. Good condition, but continually breaking down. We have number 86. The bus is in good condition. It has a fuel leak. It needs a new cage to hold the fuel tank in place. Dave is going to see what he can do with parts from another bus to repair that. But we have a $3,000 repair bill for number 86. I don't know if we want to put any more money in that bus. I don't know if we want to think about buying any more used buses, because it seems that we get a year or two and then all of a sudden we're just throwing money in them to keep them on the road. So we have to start to think about what is the most benefit for our money. And that's what this presentation is about.
Ruth, can I just ask you that I counted 18 buses on here. That is our fleet that's on the road every day?
It is not on the road every day. If you look on page, page 3, if you look at our, the slide that says equipment requirements.
Oh, yes, okay. Yes.
We require 14 full-size buses, 7 for in-district runs, 2 for BOCES runs. We need 2 spares in the lot all the time in case of breakdowns. And we need 3 for athletic events, because while our in-district runs are running in the afternoon, our athletic events need to go out and they cannot coordinate. So we do need 14 full-size. And we require 1 minibus for a BOCES run, and we need 1 minibus with wheelchair capability for special needs, because at any given time, someone could move into the district who's wheelchair bound and we need transportation. And we don't want to be in a position when that happens and not have the bus. That would put us in a bad spot. So going back, and I know there are varying opinions about purchasing and leasing, and I look at both sides. It depends on what you can afford at the time, and with our financial condition as it stands now, you know, that's a decision that the board is really going to have to look at, whether purchasing or leasing is a better option. So the purchase option, I had gotten 3 quotes from 3 different companies, and that is on page 2, the second slide. And you'll see what the purchase price is. These are all New York State contract pricing. You'll notice that company B is higher, and the reason for that is they have a bumper-to-bumper warranty for 5 years. They also give us parts, replacement parts in that. And there are a few options that we put in the bus, like luggage compartments for our sports teams to put their sports equipment in, and a ventilator in the roof, so because the buses get sweltering in the summer, so we put this fan in the roof. It's an extra option, but it keeps the bus cool. So that is why company B is a little more expensive. The other companies, they did not offer that. The other thing we want to consider is standardizing our fleet. If you standardize your fleet, parts are interchangeable. You have 3 Bluebird, 3 Thomas, 3 International. You have to stock all of those parts, and that is an investment. If you move over to the lease option on page 3, you'll see the pricing there. These are 5-year leases. If we did the whole fleet, if you turn to page 4, I calculated it out what the cost would be purchasing or leasing for the entire fleet. That would be 14 large buses and 1 each of the mini buses. The purchase over 5 years would be, it would cost annually $362,600 annually to purchase these buses. Our state aid reimbursement is about 43%, we get 156 back in the second year. And this is a lot to digest tonight, I understand that. That's why I printed this so you could take it home. Your warranty is different, your wear and tear, your rust, your increased repair costs with purchasing. The lease option is the one I'm leaning towards, specifically because of the financial condition of the district. The vendor would come and pick the buses up on a rotating basis in the summer and take them back to their facility, wash them and go all over them and make sure they're ready to come back in September for transportation again.
And at the end of 5 years, we don't own them.
We do not own them. That is true.
And we don't pay for anything this summer on that.
No, that is included, and the vendor, Company B, is giving us all of the replacement parts. I mean, we might need a tire if we hit something in the road. That would not be included. But the other parts are all, and Dave, you can speak to this.
All wear parts will be included for the full 5 years. The brakes, drums, belts,
This is Company B.
anything. The only thing the school is liable for over 5 years is tires and motor oil and transmission fluid. That's it.
Yeah. And yes, you don't own them at the end of 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, you may decide that this is not the way to go. Maybe we should purchase, so you start making a plan for doing that. But after 5 years, they're all going back. So you have to,
Yeah.
it gives us a little time to build up finances and decide how we want to go in the future. From my perspective, on the financial end, I think the way the district should lean is leasing at this point, because I think it's going to be a smaller investment. I don't know, unless we're willing to go out and bond buses.
Well, regarding the owning the buses at the end of 5 years, it looks like on your slide where you're looking at the lease options, that we would sell off our current fleet, right? That's part of the deal.
We
Sell
will,
it.
they gave us trade values. We feel that they're not high enough. Some of them we'll take because some of our buses are just not worth more than they are. But those that we feel that are in better condition, we will put out to auction with a minimum bid price and sell them ourselves. And there is, we're thinking that we're going to get $130,000 for those buses.
For the entire fleet?
At a minimum, at the entire fleet.
The entire
The
fleet?
only one we wouldn't sell is the one from Port Jervis, because the mini bus we just bought from Port Jervis last year is in excellent condition. That one we would not get rid of, but the rest of them we would sell.
And that's all we get?
So the reason I asked Carol is because it sounds like there's really not that much of a benefit of owning that vehicle. I mean, 130,000 divided by 18?
At the end of it, but these buses that we own, they're more than 5 years old. If you look at the ages of them,
Right.
yeah, I see one that's just 5 years old. Number 87 is 2011.
And 7 of them are second life buses as it is.
Yes.
Purchased from 2 other school districts.
So let me just ask the question straight out. Can we afford to lease? This is per bus, or this is the cost of all the buses to lease?
This is the cost of all of the buses. Over 5 years, it'd be $278,016 annually, which comes out to be about 24,000, I don't know, what did I say? Divided by 12.
So I think, so you're on the 5-year lease option page?
$25,000 a month. I'm sorry.
You're on the 5-year lease option page. And so you're
Yes.
looking at what Company B,
Yes,
and you're multiplying Company B by 5 years.
correct.
So,
Oh, okay, I didn't understand that.
so that's not, so that's for the entire fleet of 18 vehicles, $92,000 annually.
It's 14 and 2 is 16 vehicles.
Okay.
And it, with the sale and the trade and the budget reductions, we would almost break even in the first year, and the second year with the state aid, we would break even. Because we have the budget reductions and the state aid. because you're not gonna need your parts, you're not gonna need all the contractual that we have. You're not gonna need all the fuel, these are better fuels, they get better fuel mileage.
Is there, are there any jobs tied to switching? No jobs are
By
tied to this.
DOT, we have to maintain 1.5 mechanics because of the size of our fleet. And what would happen is the one mechanic, he already does 2 runs, and then he would do other things like he would do courier duties, and then he would find other things to maintain his position and keep him busy.
And the
folks,
drive-
we're not looking for a decision tonight.
Yeah.
This is a conversation we're starting. It's a conversation that's been a long time in coming, whether we purchase and have to bond it, or whether we lease and it's built into the budget. It still has to go on the ballot in May. The wording will be different, but we checked with the attorney, it will still have to go on the ballot in May.
As a separate amount?
Yes.
Not within
Well,
the budget.
if we're buying it, it's a bond for a separate
Got
amount.
it. I
If we're
know.
leasing it, it still needs to go on because it's a lease. Even though it's built in the budget, it would be revenue neutral. We will get from the attorney what the wording will look like for those 2 different things, but that's down the line. We're starting this conversation because we're going into budget season. It'll give you time to take it home, look it over, make notations, come back at the next meeting, ask some more questions. But we're getting to the point that to maintain our own transportation department, we're going to make a commitment one way or the other. We've been putting a Band-Aid on the problem for, Melissa, 5 years now.
Yes.
And thank God the people we have over there are phenomenal. I don't think Brian was on the board, but if you remember when I showed you the pictures of the bus a couple of years ago, that they literally built from the ground up. They're phenomenal, and we're very lucky, but there comes a point you can't do anything. I mean, Dave is good, but you know, when the bottom falls out of that bus, even he can't fix it. And it's coming to the point that for the future of our transportation service, we're going to make a commitment one way or the other. I will say, there is a distinct possibility between now and June that we will need to lease 1 or 2 buses on an emergency basis if these buses don't pass inspection or otherwise go out of service. And that will be brought back to the board. That's separate from what we're talking about. But if we have to do that, whatever we decide to do, that will be less buses as part of the package. But it is a distinct possibility that we will have to do something on an emergency basis, especially if the bus we're looking to put money into, the value of it is going to be offset by the lease. You know, if it's already dying, it's not worth it to put $10,000 into a bus.
So if you look at the last slide, this is the minimum requirements for 17-18 school year. We absolutely need to get 8 large buses and 1 minibus with a wheelchair. And then if we only did those buses, we would have to maintain budget lines for parts, contractual, and fuel for the older models. So we're not going to be saving money that way. We would also lose the sale, we'd have the loss of the sale of the trade value. As Bob said, there's a public right plan, but regardless, the only way a school district can lease a bus is if it's an emergency for 1 year. Anything more than a year must be voted on by the public. And time is of the essence because the bus company needs notice to put in the order to start building buses.
How much?
Well, I would say that January is the latest we can let them know. The possibility of them having loaners for us, if they cannot fulfill the entire amount, exists, but we need to be giving them enough time to be able to get that.
So would
together.
you please contact that company tomorrow while the board is reviewing this and get a definitive drop dead date of when they would need an order, an answer, so that we know what we're doing?
What did they say?
The thing is, they're looking for a build date. Right now, they're backed up 6 months in building buses. They just looking at, all it is reserving spots upon voter approval on what the decision is later, you know, at voting time. But they're just looking to reserve 14 or 15 spots in the line to give us July to August delivery.
It it wouldn't obligate us to purchasing or
Okay,
leasing, but
that
at
that was
least
gonna be
we're
my
in
concern,
line.
that, you know, we can't make that decision,
Right.
you know.
No, we can't make that decision tonight,
Right.
I understand that.
Well,
But
we
if we
can't make
get
it
in
at all.
line,
We're not allowed to make that decision.
no, the public has
Right,
to.
exactly.
And they are aware of that, so
Okay.
if it goes down, they know that.
Okay, understood.
But just to clarify, so we are deciding what we're gonna present to the public, right? We're not gonna say we're gonna either purchase or lease or do nothing, right? It's either, we're gonna make a recommendation, either lease or purchase, and that will be up for referendum,
Right,
right?
I would suggest that that's the way we,
But your choices are what you said, Ryan.
Right.
Lease, purchase, or do nothing. And if it comes that the board chooses to do nothing, we've got to try to figure out how we're gonna get by. But the reason we're bringing this is, you can only kick the can down the road for a certain amount of time. And I think we've been doing that in transportation for the last couple of years. Transportation has taken one of the biggest hits. We were on a one-year replacement plan, right? That's what we were on many years ago before we went into the 2% tax levy. We were buying a new bus every year. The first thing we stopped doing was that, because that's a significant chunk of money. The bus costs $114,000. So that kind of went by the wayside, and we started buying used buses, and we've gotten some service out of them. But there are fewer and fewer used buses out there, and the cost associated with them, you might get a great deal up front, but you're putting more money in on the back end because you are inheriting somebody else. It's like buying a used car. You're inheriting somebody else's problems.
Can we, I love the idea of new buses, leasing new buses. Can we find out some other school districts that do this, have done this, have been through 5 years of this? Can we get some feedback? Maybe there's things we're not.
do you guys know anybody that's gone through it?
Yeah, the two people we just bought from.
He gave us a
He did
list.
give me a
Delhi,
list.
the two districts we just bought from. We're both going over to
Yes,
lease.
Delhi did
And
it, and
Sherborne.
Sherburne did it.
Yes, they love it.
Yes.
He said that Innocent did do some leasing, they purchased and they did some leasing.
But Delhi and Sherborne,
I would
we
just like
bought buses from.
Some, person-to-person kind of feedback, like, is it really as good as it sounds? Because to lease a bus, maybe we don't want to own it after 5 years anyway, you know? So it just seems to me to be, I want the kids in safe buses, which I know we do the best that we can
Sure.
to put them in safe buses, but I just,
Well, they are unsafe buses.
yes,
Because we will not let an
absolutely.
unsafe bus roll out of the garage.
Thank you. So I don't mean it that way, but
No, but I-
newer is safer. Yeah.
Yeah,
The used buses that we have purchased have been in the 5-year category of age, and that's where we're finding they're costing us an arm and a leg to
Yeah.
maintain. After 5 years is where it's costing you the money. And we're finding at 7 years, to the point they're rotted where they're worth scrap value to us at that point. That's,
okay.
Well, the fire department appreciates that,
Yeah,
because we just burn them.
yeah, Mr. Cook?
Okay, on page 4, so you have annual cost for a purchase option and annual cost for a lease option. And at the bottom, you have the state aid reimbursement. Is that after the annual cost, that gets subtracted from the annual cost, with the exception that it's going to be a 1-year lag time?
It's in,
So we're talking about $362,000, and eventually we'll get the state aid, the $155,000, so we're talking about $207,000,
right, for all of them.
okay? And then for the lease, we would be talking about $133,000
Yes, yes.
difference, okay? Trying to wrap my brain around this to see where it would fit in with the budget. It appears to me that it might be possible to include these in the budget rather than financing them. And the worst case scenario is you may have to finance the state aid for 1 year.